the studio to shed more light on this issue by Dr. Salah Nasir, the research and development expert. And we're also joined by Dr. Tariq Khalil, the economic expert and president of Al Nile University. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Dr. Khalil, let me start with you first. Now, the Egyptian government signed 6 contracts with 6 international firms to help really digging the 35-kilometer, the expansion of the Suez Canal, to actually make it on time within 1 year to have 35 kilometers of the expansion already dug. When you learned about this news, how did you receive it? Do you think this is a good move, or was it a disappointment?
No, absolutely, it's a good move. And let me just say that this particular project is probably one of the most significant projects that ever happened in Egypt. It's a really good project that utilizes the natural location of Egypt, the types of resources that Egypt can offer to the world, actually, not only to the Egyptians, and the Suez Canal project as a whole, and I would like to talk about that some more, which contains 2 components of it. One of them is digging the canal itself, which is the excavation and so on, and this new signing is very important because it completes the project in the shortest possible time, and it promises to bring the returns as quickly as possible. And we need this to start the economy rolling again for Egypt. So it's really a significant move. The project as a whole, and I can talk about this a little more as our discussion goes, is really significant for the improvement of the national economy, for the job creation, for a lot of benefit for Egyptians. So I'm very optimistic and I'm very happy about this project.
Yes. Well, Dr. Nasir, now all the Egyptians knew, as the president promised, that this project, at least the first phase of the project, which is digging the 35-kilometer, will be done in 1 year. Now, signing these contracts with these international firms to help digging this expansion, this 35 kilometers, do you think that it is good that the Egyptian government, trying to keep its promise, is looking for some other help, even from international companies, or would you have rather to see the Egyptian government and the Egyptian armed forces actually just digging this 35-kilometer stretch all alone, even if it's going to take more time?
Well, definitely I am in support and in favor of what happened, because now let's think of it this way. What we really have here is a need in a short time for a lot of resources, assuming that the dredging resources. Now, outsourcing is made for that. The idea of outsourcing is that I go outside and get something instead of buying it or doing it myself, because we need to buy time. Remember that this part of the project, initiation of the project, is the first step towards the development, which is the larger project that would take so many years, and the return is much more profitable to Egypt than just a passage. Yes. And so we ought to do whatever we do so that we can get it off our back, and we start getting some return.
Yes.
Yeah, the return from the passage is nothing compared to the return from the development project.
Yes.
So I support it fully.
Yes. Dr. Khalil, now we actually learned that the government needs £60 billion for this project, and the Egyptian society, the Egyptian people, are actually able to raise that money in 8 days. Now, with the signing of these contracts with these 6 international firms and companies, do you think that now it would cost a little bit more, or are we still in the budget?
Well, I'm sure this is taken care of, and if we pay more and we save time, it's probably the same net result. What we have to realize in here, as Dr. Salah was mentioning. This project is two projects, actually. It's not a one project. The first project is the real digging of the canal for the ships and for things to move. But the second project, which is probably more significant, is the logistics and supply chain operation and the types of development that will take place around the canal. The second project cannot start actually fully unless the first project is also completed, even though the planning and the activities have to start in parallel with it. So we have to finish that first project. Now, to finish such a massive project, it's very difficult to do it only with existing capabilities of the country, because there are certain types of dredgers and certain types of equipment that for us to acquire to do such a massive project is going to take a long period of time. So it's much easier just to contract for it and get the work going in here in order to finish that part of the project. And when we save time, we save money in the meantime, and we get the second project rolling much quicker.
Yes.
So it's, I am sure it's well calculated, and it's a wise move.
Yes. Dr. Nasir, now Egyptians were made to believe that this, this canal, this 35 kilometer stretch, will solely be dug by Egyptian hands. Now, do you feel that obviously it's not possible to actually dig it by Egyptian hands and finish in 1 year's time? Do you feel that this goes down to maybe it was the wrong promise to make, or Egyptians shouldn't have thought that that was the case? Do you think that this is a problem in planning?
No, I don't think it's a problem in planning. Perhaps if there is a problem, it would be a problem in telling people how, through the media. You know?
Yes.
In other words, the people don't know the intricate relations of things in the plan. But the media has the ability and the responsibility at the same time, so that they can tell the people what's going on. We have about 35 kilometers in dry, quote unquote, because after a while you're going to get some water. But in dredging, you have to have dredges. And the question is now, time, as Dr. Tara was saying, is one element. The other element, why do we only think of cost? We have to think of return. So we have to spend and save time so that we can enhance the return, so that the cash flow would be better, and the return from the project, the economic returns will be high.
Yes.
And so we have to tell the people that, wait a minute now, don't try to outsmart the planners. And it's your role as the media to tell the people that this is the right thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think I answered.
Yes, you did. Dr. Khalil, now signing these contracts with these 6 international firms, what's their end of the deal? Do they only get money for their services, or do they get more benefits even after the whole project is over?
I think in the introduction you gave several excerpts from President Sisi's talks, and it was quite clear that, and he made it quite clear to the Egyptian people, that the canal is Egyptian, it's going to be built by Egyptian, it remains in Egyptian hands, and that's the way it should be. So there's no question about that, there's no any doubt about that. But sometimes you need some assistance in certain areas. For example, in wet dredging, you need very large pieces of equipment in order to acquire them, to do it in the time frame that you're talking about. It's going to take probably a long period of time even to build them, because they may not exist. So they may exist in very few places around the world in here. So there is nothing that says that we should not utilize the capabilities that exist in the world in order to complete the task that we are very much interested in completing. So this is, as I said, it's a good move, and it's probably the only move that can keep us on track, on time, and get us the benefits and the returns in the time that we're looking for. Because it's very urgent for us to kickstart the economy again. Kickstart the economy will happen with projects like Suez Canal, and with the continuation of that project, and how well we actually, the question right now is how well we actually follow up with the planning and the implementation of the logistics, supply chain operation, and the information flow and the trade flow across the canal.
Yes. Dr. Nasir, now with these firms and these companies going to supply the dredging equipment, should we expect at a later stage, maybe 6 months or maybe even fewer months before the whole year runs out, do you think that we'll be signing more contracts with other companies that would finalize the actual canal, the 35-kilometer stretch, or does it only end with the dredging?
No, I mean, we have a part which is in dry digging, you know, and excavation,
yes,
digging for excavation, and then now we have about 37 kilometers dredging, wet. Now, the idea here, we have to look at it from a global point of view. In other words, what we need is to finish the whole thing within a limited period of time, so that we can start gaining the fruits of having the project, the developmental project. So we should do whatever it takes. As I say, you have your own dredgers should not be more than what you need for the maintenance of the canal. Other dredgers will be so costly to have them, and it will be quite costly if you are to either time or dredges, so that you have to use time or you get more dredges. Get them by having outsourcing. So we do whatever, not only the new dredges, and whatever it takes so that we can finish as soon as possible. Even though I know that crash programming costs more, but are we looking for minimizing cost or maximizing return? That's the question.
Yes.
And we better choose the second one, because minimizing cost, we better stay home. We don't go leave the bed. Okay?
Yes, definitely. Dr. Khalil, you wanted to talk more about the economic benefits that the expansion of the Suez Canal would have. Can you shed more light on that?
Yeah, as I mentioned in here, and people probably need to understand this fully. The Suez Canal project is really two projects. It's not one project. One of them is the dredging of the canal and the digging and the water flowing. And that's where the ships are going to continue to flow, so we will have a much larger number of ships and bigger ships flowing through the canal. That will bring return on the canal, similar to probably what we have right now on the return on the canal. But that's not where the major economic benefit is. The major economic benefit is actually in the location of Egypt in the center of the world. Now, this has always been our natural benefit. This has been a gift from God to Egypt, is where it's located. Because now we can have the trade of the world, a very large percentage of the trade of the world passing through our land. So, and passing through the canal. The important thing is to utilize this in a proper way. Now, in the proper way of international trade right now, and actually of manufacturing and of development, people utilize the concepts of supply chain activities, which means no one in the world right now builds everything in every product. The trade in the world has become global. The world has become a smaller village whereby you take advantage of what happens elsewhere that can benefit you in your development effort. That's part of this dredging part even, is we can take advantage of someone who has the dredgers and has the capability of doing this, to complement what we can offer actually from our own resources. So this whole world is working on a supply chain operation. Now supply chain operation requires a lot of logistics. Logistics including both distribution, both transportation, warehousing, e-commerce, event management activities, business intelligence, a whole bunch of activities, as well as industry that can be located. And when I say industry, and this is something that probably most people don't appreciate enough, when we talk about any industry, there's no country in the world right now probably that builds industry from all its components. In other words, you look at the automotive industry, or you look at the aerospace industry, or you look at any one of those industries. Each one of those industries, even if you talk about the automotive in Detroit, Detroit doesn't build cars by itself. Detroit builds cars from components coming from all over the world. When you talk about Boeing company, Boeing doesn't build aeroplanes. Boeing actually knows how to put the components that are built around the world. So the flow of material and of supplies and of components and of products is coming across from China and from India and from Korea and from Europe and from Germany and from East Europe and so on. So having a location that all these things can pass through has its own advantage in here, including the flow of information. We miss that a lot. I mean, Egypt has the largest connection between the East and the West in terms of the cables and the flow of information and data. That's where the advantage of Egypt is. That's where the advantage of this project is. And if we plan it right, then we can benefit from that project significantly. To the extent is probably 1/3 of the total world trade can pass through the Suez Canal and what we can build around it.
Yes, definitely. And in light of the logistics part of the project, let's check out this report regarding the investment opportunities offered in the National Suez Canal expansion, and we'll be right back with our distinguished guests.
Minister of Planning Ashraf Al-Arabi said the successful experiment in funding the new Suez Canal project could be repeated through the initial public offerings for the national projects. The minister said Egyptians' confidence in the project helped successfully collect £64 billion over 8 days only. For his part, Investment Minister Ashraf Salman said the cost of digging the new Suez Canal project would hit £30 billion. Salman said in a press conference that the project would bring in $2 to $5 billion in revenue in the next 2 to 3 years, in addition to $220 billion in investments in the next 15 years. The minister said the 6 tunnels, which would be set up under the newly launched project, would cost the same, adding that the establishment of the tunnels would take more than 3 years. Investors were attracted by the guaranteed returns on their investment, a desire to contribute to the future, and an attachment to the symbol of national pride drove its popularity. It is the Egyptian people's gift to the world. This is how President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi referred to the new Suez Canal in his speech at the UN General Assembly in New York last month. The canal's expansion project involves digging a new 34.4-kilometer waterway parallel to the existing one and expanding and deepening 37.6 of 4 of 6 bypasses. This would cut ships time in half, reduce operating costs, and double the canal's carrying capacity to about 95 ships per day. The industrial zone, fish farms, completing the technology valley, building 7 new tunnels between Sinai and Ismailia, Port Said, and improving 5 existing ports, and digging a new canal parallel to the Suez Canal. These all were the objectives of the new project. The new canal will increase the canal capacity by allowing ships to sail into both directions at the same time. The project will transfer the canal cities into an important trading center globally. It will also build new centers around the Suez Canal for logistics and ship services. The new waterway is expected to help revive Egypt's ailing economy by increasing ship traffic revenues, luring huge foreign investments and creating thousands of job opportunities. Once the project is completed in a year's time, canal traffic will double because the new waterway running parallel to the old one will allow two-way traffic. Deepening the canal will permit fully loaded giant vessels, about 65% of all the traffic, to transit.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, resuming our topic of discussion. Dr. Nasir, now we understand that there are two parts of this project. It's actually two projects. Other than the digging and dredging, there's the development and the logistics sides of the project. Now, first off, we have to be done with the digging and the dredging. Now, before we enter or before we actually finalize the second part, can we already start using the canal, even though the banks of the canal might not be as developed as we hope for?
Well, this depends on how the design is worked out, and after all, we are not going to stop the canal. It's like open heart surgery. You
Yes.
cannot, stop the heart while you're doing so. It's a normal operation, at least. Over and above that, you may be adding some more capacity, but at least let's think of it this way. We have the first part. That's why we say two phases, because they are not two separated projects. However, we have to think of the fact that we have to prepare our vision for the other one, which is the most significant one. By preparing, I mean, and that's what we are doing and on our own, and we are to declare this after a while, is that the most important factor in the competitive edge of Egypt, is the fact that its history and the knowledge about its history is one thing. The second is its location in the middle of the world. Thinking of the Silk Road for the railroad and the other means of transportation. Here
Yes.
you are talking about, as though we are talking about the Silk Road via Egypt, which means that you are to attract people. By attracting them, you have to think of you have a vision of the fact that let's ask people to come and show them what was Egypt, Egyptology, and sell the fact, not only the traditional trade. Let's think of the history and the knowledge behind making that history as part of the trade itself.
Yes.
So we can sell products to all those who are interested in Egyptology worldwide, and this is a sizable market, over
Yes.
3 billion in number.
Yes.
So if you have that big market, and we have been, I personally have been working on this for years, and at one time stopped due to reasons globally. Now we're starting this again now, and we're thinking of this, and this is knowledge in itself, and we are living the area of knowledge, and we are to produce whatever commodities that would work to explain what we have, and use the latest technology like holography, like things that can transform and make many questions in front of those who are working in scientific fields, so that how can we dig in the history and find out how things were done at that time.
Yes. Well, do you feel that the Egyptian government was successful in actually attracting a lot of companies and a lot of interested people in the development of this project just yet, or is the international community and the international investor waiting to see the first phase?
Well, this well posed question, because now if you ask people to come and join now, then you are making sort of like a shake the market, so that they start worrying about whether they take a part of the cake or not, and make them join now. And the vision, our vision, is how to utilize the situation and capture the opportunity of the moment to do what we ought to do.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes, definitely. Well, Dr. Khalil, now a lot of people are focusing only on the expansion of the Suez Canal. They're talking about the job opportunities it's going to offer, the industries, the tourism sector that it will help strengthen. But a lot of people don't just see the Suez Canal project focusing on the Suez Canal. It's also affecting the whole Sinai Peninsula. Do you think that the wealth and the potential that this project has, this 35-kilometer stretch, could actually benefit the whole Sinai Peninsula?
Let me mention this, and I'll get back to the question that you asked, that is, should we be starting right now? I think we don't have a minute to waste. I think this should have started even before, and it should start immediately. And there are so many phases in the planning that you have to do. Because now we are talking about a very ambitious project that would bring focus to Egypt as the center of logistics and global trade. And that is needed, because that would require a whole bunch of things simultaneously. It will bring development not only to the western part of the Suez Canal, but also to the eastern part of the Suez Canal and the Sinai and the whole region, as a matter of fact. So there is no doubt about that, and it can be done. And it does not need to wait for the actual dredging or digging of the canal. It can start immediately right now. One of the things in terms of the employment that you were talking about, yes, it will bring a lot of opportunities for employment. The question is, are we prepared, and are we preparing our people for the types of industries and the types of activities that are needed? So we have to, when we attract the companies, I heard in one of the reports that you just presented in here that some of the estimates that coming from some of the ministries of a $220 billion of investments and so on. Sure, the companies that are going to come and invest and the countries that are going to put some resources in this in here, when they come in, they would like to see well-qualified people in order to employ them. If you want to employ your people, they have to be ready for that employment. Do we have the resources right now, and are we ready to prepare people in the areas of warehousing, in the areas of supply chain operation, in the areas of logistics, in the areas of e-commerce, in the areas of information and communication technology, in the areas of the technology-based things that all of this are dependent on? The issues of big data analysis, because there's a lot of information that has to be done. The cloud, because everything is going to be on the cloud. The technologies associated with these things like warehousing, the RFID technologies, the devices that there's a lot of science, there's a lot of technology that is associated with this. Do we have that technology? And are we preparing ourselves to really absorb all the investments that are coming in for the benefit of our people? That's the real challenge.
Yes. Well, does that mean that we're going to need a lot of training by these companies and these enterprises?
By everything, by lots of programs. I don't see a single program that is really right now well prepared to offer that type of level of training.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, definitely the expansion of the Suez Canal, it's a mega project that only started a couple of months ago, but will definitely prove to be a critical and an integral, a cornerstone actually, part of the Egyptian economy for years to come, with a lot of obstacles, a lot of challenges, and also a lot of fruits and benefits coming from such a project. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for for this edition of the Daily Debate. But before we go, I'd like to thank our very distinguished guest, Dr. Tariq Khalil, the economic expert and president of El Nile University. I'd also like to thank Dr. Salah Nasir, the research and development expert. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for more coming up on Nile International. I'm Hani Saif. Thank you for joining us.